in stereo. Nah, baby. Just Chris Gaming just left here, and he has put together the hookup. This thing is hooked up and ready to go. Let's talk about episodes 1 and 2 of the hit show, the show you all know and love, Power. Book 3, Raising Kanan. This is what you wanted, right? I know, it's crazy. Hiding my notifications. They doing all kind of dirty stuff. Now, this is breaking out to be a story that's not really about Kanan to me. This is more of a 50 Cent story. So I'm like, man, am I watching Get Rich or Die Trying, the prequel? What am I watching here? So when I'm watching this, I'm like, is 50 Cent redoing Get Rich or Die Trying the series? Is that what they just gonna call this? I didn't like the narration. The narration in this seemed cheap and off tone. When they did the pauses, I thought that was really cheaply done. Shouldn't have been done like that. But the episodes started to improve with the other characters. You're only as good as the characters. Now, the thing about reality and actual dramatization and all that stuff, when you do that and you got to try to have an arc in the story, you got it, which is Kanan, and everybody's trying to figure it all out in one episode. You're not gonna get that. Everybody want to know where's Tommy and Ghost. You're not gonna get that. You'll get that before the first season is out, I believe. But this is supposed to be about Kanan and how Kanan became Kanan, but more importantly, characters that you've known from the show and how they were connected. You learn a lot about Jukebox, yeah, a little bit in the first episode, but more likely in the second episode. The first one is trying to explain Kanan's beginning, because we all know how he ended. So they wanted to explain the beginning of Kanan and how he came to be. Well, I'm glad they went through the time. They showed a little bit of him in the 80s, and then they fast forwarded to the 90s. It's like 1991 around that time. Even though I think they're a little bit off base with some of the stuff, because in 91, I don't remember 8-ball jackets in 91. I remember that in like 95, more than 91. And Pelly Pale, that was like 95, 96. I don't really remember them that big and heavy in 91. But I am seeing the high top fades, which is telling me in those shirts and some of the things that they got that shows me the 90s. Well, they probably was, but then again, I'm saying, we're Midwest. So by the time we got 8-ball jackets and got it and popping down here, y'all was already probably through with them. Shot Town, it was Mark 8s and 8-ball jackets. So yeah, so the whole thing was this thing was mostly a soft side story. Everyone had a story similar to this. I have a story that's very similar to how episode one went down. I'm like, wow, this is a story that happened like not in my neighborhood, but a neighborhood outside of it from a boy that went to our school. Shot a dude in school because he was, basically intimidated by the other guy. He was jealous and wanted to shoot the guy, then and ended up trying to date the girl. I'm like, wow, I know this whole story then. All of a stupid party. He shot the guy, but the guy didn't die, but he shot him. Here the person died, and it caused a lot of friction though, because at that time, that wasn't fashionable for somebody to get shot. That stuff wasn't like a normal thing that happened at schools. Now you say that's like something major, but back then it wasn't. I had a problem with a couple of things. A little bit of the character basis, like how many times whoever wrote this don't know how to write for women, unless they're writing for a woman to be a man. So the writer in this is failing them when it's coming to writing for women. All the women dialogue, have you noticed, is the same? Like, oh my God, I never had a man jump in front of or never try to protect me like that. Then the next thing you know, you got the white girl saying the same dialogue. Oh my God, I never had anybody fight for me like that. It's like, come on, man. It's like you can't write dialogue for women. You got the women all sounding the same. But sometimes that's a character flaw. And this is what separates great writers from average writers. They literally had two different women say the same line. And when Kanan's uncle, the one that normally handled the business, is talking to the Puerto Rican, we've all had a Spanish friend like that in school. Everybody has. The guy famous, we've all had a guy like him that had a fine sister or something, and he always was trying to roll with the clique. Oh, a lot of this stuff is real. A lot of this stuff they kept in line, like the cop, Omar Epps playing the cop. That is exactly what's going on with these cops out here. We've had a cop like that. Every neighborhood has had a cop like him, a guy who knows the job, a guy that's like, look, this is my 9 to 5. I'm just trying to stay out the news. I want to keep my job. Look, do what you're doing. Don't just get caught out here. But look, y'all gonna have to watch it with all this. I can't have y'all hurting kids. So that's gonna bring attention on them and their job, and they're gonna have to start solving some of these cases. But then they start extorting some of the dealers and stuff because they was being paid to protect people and all these different things. We had a cop out here like that who went crazy with it. He had so much power, and he ended up getting arrested, and they let my boy out of jail because of it, and a lot of other criminals let free because all his pending cases, they had to let people go. So the cops didn't like that. And of course, his name was what? Nothing more than Pac-Man. Everybody in Chicago know about Pac-Man. Oh, Joey Badass, yeah, he's doing a great job playing unique. But I like the realism they kept in there with most of the dialogue. In the 90s, people spoke in code. A lot of people spoke in codes where only if you wasn't in the clique, you pretty much weren't gonna get some of the slang. Sometimes you could pick it up, sometimes it was subtle, sometimes it was not. But that's how they spoke, especially when they was talking about business. That was universal in the 90s. Now people just talk regularly. They don't care. But there they people knew the risk. No, I mean from the point here, you see Kanan is trying to he don't have a father around, but he got all his father figures are in the business. She should have just sent him to his grandma's because but eventually he would have tried to gravitate and try to do this. This happened to a cousin of mine. Me and him same age. We got to be teenagers and his uncles is like Kanan's uncles. And they took him and he went that way. I kept going this way. So we kind of separated once we hit our teenagers. He was fast money, cars, guns, girls. That was that was his life now. He went down that road. I went down another path. I liked his homeboy, man. I said, what's his name? D Will. I like D Will, but I understood and knew what was gonna happen to D Will from the moment this whole incident went down. I knew where they were gonna end up. I could have finished. I could have wrote that in my head because that's exactly what would have happened. That would have the fact that D Will didn't know that was gonna happen was the D Wiz whatever. Yeah, if he didn't know that was gonna happen. Well, see, the problem is Kanan was Kanan was an idiot. He was a young idiot, always trying to learn the system mathematics, trying to learn the numbers, trying to do what he can. That's right, Jonathan. And thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. What's up, Bear? Gavin said he back whooping on you again. You should be shutting him down by now. Don't worry, I'm gonna tear him up. His dad just left here. He put up the stereo system. He hooked it all up, speaker wires and everything. He was just trying to call right now. Now the other brother, oh yeah, this thing could crank. Now the other brother,
You already.
ooh, this thing can crank, crank, and crank. Well, the first episode was telling you basically how Kanan was, how his innocence was lost by doing something stupid, and he realized what he did was dumb, but he wanted to be a part of that life because that's what he was seeing. He was just, it was all happening around him, and they were just acting like he wasn't there, and he wanted to be a part of something, have a crew. They did a lot of dirty things, man. They did a lot of. I haven't watched Sweet Tooth yet. That's Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man. The guy who plays Iron Man, him and his wife. That's their little project, Sweet Tooth. So I was gonna check that out. So now we gotta wait and wonder and see because we have other aspects going on right now. We have a lot of tropes that's happening because back in those days, in the 90s, there was a drought. See, it was the big 88 hit in 88. That was it. And everybody missed that 88 boat. When it was like all this stuff was floating. It was all cream and everybody was eating it up. By the 90s, just 3 years later, 4 years later, it was a drought. And do you know that was like some of hip hop's best years? 87, 88. And then it dried up, and then you didn't come back to that 96. It was like dried up into 96, and 96 in hip hop was a huge year. Also, that was the flow of that 96 hit. That 1995, 96 hit. What I mean by that hit, and what I mean by the hit, is the fact that the flow of product wasn't enough from the connects that they were getting in the 90s. It had dried up. People had got busted. The mob was being taken down. So the New York mob scene, people had fled. Most people went towards Boston. Most people had moved towards New Jersey. Other places, New York City and the state line was hot. So a lot of connects and a lot of product was scarce. It wasn't enough for what they had going on. So that means people were thin, and you got to keep your people fed. So you got to make sure it's enough to go around. So people had to fight over blocks and territory as far as where they could go. There's people, a lot of people think because you got product, it's just gonna move because you got product. No, some people had to sit on it because they couldn't move it. A lot of places they couldn't move because they didn't have territory or areas in there, and they couldn't afford to go to war. That's a lot of things that people missed due to this altercation. Now, Unique is under a lot of pressure now. That's going to put pressure on Unique when somebody violate an agreement. They gave up some paper, but I was like, I already knew that wasn't going to be enough. Somebody had to be laid down for that, for what Kanan did. But it ain't going to be Kanan because that's her son. If Kanan wasn't her son, he would have been laid down for doing an unauthorized action that risked the whole entire operation, territories and everything. Talking about something. I didn't know you did all that. What you, boy? You ain't in this. I was ready to slap Kanan. I'm like, she just negotiated all this. Now then, of course, he want all the blocks. But neither one, even Unique, is not really ready for a war. No, none of them are. They're not prepared for it. It's going to cost a lot of money. And in the end, both of them going to be limping to where it's not going to look good. But Unique he needs something to go in his favor because he's going to start losing members. Nah, Kanan wanted to take him out because that guy was dating the girl he likes. That was the main reason. It wasn't about the block. He just wanted to use the block as the excuse. See, that's what people miss. Like I said, I seen this show in real time. Seen a dude hate another guy because another guy was dating a girl he liked, and he thought of an excuse to shoot him. What's up, Ringo Report? But you still haven't realized what the descent was. Because you got to understand, Breeze is the guy that ended up teaching them the game. Remember, Breeze taught Kanan and Ghost. They learned all this stuff from Kanan, him and Breeze. They learned Breeze and Ghost learned from Kanan, basically. And remember, Ghost, he take Breeze out. He took Breeze out in that apartment. And they tried to bring Kanan in on the deal, right? Kanan wasn't with it. Ghost had this idea. And they got Ghost out the way. Kanan out the way. It was either two options: take Kanan out or put him in jail. So they framed him, put him in jail because they didn't want to kill him. But the code of the streets demanded that Kanan would go in that situation if you was going to take over, because you will have that liability out there. And that led to the Power season 1. He was still alive in jail, knew what he was set up. You didn't think that man was going to figure that out, that he was set up by y'all and he trained y'all? I would have never, ever expected or suspected anybody else but Kanan in season 1. Now we see Jukebox was there all along. And she was the one that was always by Kanan's side. And they had a certain bond from the beginning. And you learn that she's Jukebox because she could sing, which we figured out already from Power. When they casted the character to play her, the girl from Anika Rose that played her, the one from Dreamgirls, she can sing. So when they got her playing that role, and her name was Jukebox, and she was singing when she had Tyreek tied up.
And now you know how it started.
And now you know how it started. Now, the lady that's playing the mom, who playing Ra, she's basically playing 50 Cent's mother all over again. So a lot of this is related to her and her life. And now you're learning a lot about 50 Cent's past. Again, Get Rich or Die Trying, the Ra era. Now, the streets gonna need a body. And D Wiz, since his brother came home, D Wiz is the one that gave Kanan the gun. You know, D Wiz is the one that had all this stuff. He was 100% down. But D Wiz had a problem. D Wiz runs his mouth. And the words going around that D Wiz was the one that did it. Now, we all saw that Jukebox saw D Wiz get in the car with the brother. So we know how that's gonna play out. Now Mario Van Peebles is directing this, and his daughter, I believe, is in this thing. She's in one of the episodes. Yeah, because they they knew they was gonna do him wrong. They like, man, let's let him at least go out. You know, getting up with a girl. You know, they felt bad. They had to put him down. But now, what this does is it satisfies Unique's need to have a body. Because now his people are gonna think, all right, Unique took care of that. He got back the revenge, you know, even though he didn't. But now this puts pressure on Unique because now his brother, who was wild, who just came home, is gonna think Unique is the one that did this. So now he gonna be out there warring with Unique, trying to get revenge back for his brother. Then you don't know what the cops might think about it. So now all they did was take the heat off Kanan and off the heat off their crew. Because now they good. They didn't gave them what they want. Now they can get back to business. But now Unique got the problem on him now. Now my thing is, what happens if the girl finds out that Kanan was the one that did it? And everybody's like, man, when is Ghost and Tommy gonna show up? But the one brother I can't stand is that other goofy one who's like Mike Epps. He just always screwing stuff up. The one that love to eat all the time, him. Oh my God, he gets on my damn nerves. I can't stand that dude. Of course it was cutthroat, but he had to go. One, they were gonna get busted anyway because he don't know how to keep his mouth shut. Two, there's another situation that everybody knows he's the crazy one and he got the guns and it's already in the school. That's why the mom asked him. She's like, did D-Nice, I'm saying D-Nice, D-Wiz, did he give you he gave you the gun to do that, didn't he? Because I know his brother just came home and I know he kind of crazy, got guns all over the place. She's asking because she's trying to piece it all together so it can make sense. But now we finna see what's going on. See now, because it'll make sense now. He got all these guns. His brother just got out of jail. Brother crazy. And now his brother just got popped for what happened. Now his brother might wild out and try to get unique. I've seen this happen in real life. Hood time. Seen this stuff go down. I've seen it almost go the wrong way. I've told you all of these in the hood stories. There's some idiot who was hating on me on YouTube. He had like about 100 views, but he was hating on me all in the video. Couldn't help himself. Poor guy, saying stupid. Man, you always talk about everybody else's life, man. Why don't you talk about your life? I'm like, this boy really just don't know what he's talking about. Like everybody who follow me can tell you about my life. We have a whole thing called hood stories. Oh yeah, that's Joey Badass that play him. Hold on, I'll be right back. This is great. Sorry, y'all. I had to pee.
Bang!
Woo! Feel like I had Dr. Pepper all the way up to here. I mean, this was right up his alley, though. Joey Badass, he's playing that unique role to the T. But he really ain't had too many scenes, where he really had to step it up. He really had a bunch of one-on-ones with Ra, and he had the one scene with Omar Epps. But he's doing a great job. Now, what I don't need is Jukebox and this white girl. I don't need to see that. But we're learning out a lot about Jukebox, but we're going to find out what turns her cold. Because you got to remember, Jukebox turned cold as ice, heartless. So she was more heartless than Kanan. So yeah, I'm thinking the white girl might get popped or something. And that might just turn her cold, but she ended up becoming a cop. Well, Kanan's gonna learn the ropes. He's too thinking he finna learn, he finna take over. He's not aware of the streets at all. The dude came and threw the doggone mail, the phone book out the window. That could have been a hit. Rod's like, I gotta drive you to school. Because he was almost hit. Kanan is Tyreek. Not really. Not really at all. A lot of people keep saying he's like Tyreek, but not really. Tyreek grew up in a suburban lifestyle. Completely not. Ghost didn't have none of this stuff in front of Tyreek's face at all while Tyreek was growing up. Kanan has seen this his entire life and knew what his mama did and what his father was and what he did all his life. So to them, he looked up. He was basically looked up to as a hero. This is in his bloodline. So they grew up in the slums. Tyreek went to the best schools in New York. But he lusted that life. That's why in Power Book 2, you see he ain't ready for the streets and what people who had to hustle for a living and what people who actually did this. He was just brattish. And that's why a lot of people he had to adjust. His character was adjusting to the situation. And this is why people running up on him. He don't know what to do. 2-Bit helping him out. 2-Bit like, man, dog, he leaving DNA everywhere. You're like, dog, clean that off. He was not that to the streets yet. It was only into the last episode when he took out that goofy professor who's writing a book. He lusted after the life, and then he got his sister killed. His twin at that, so he doing everything out of guilt. Kanan grew up in a house because his mom was who she was. She took over after dude, passed away or whatever. He got called a snitch, got set on fire. The dude she was dating. But things got bigger than that. He was right about that. She should have, but the thing is, she was trying to keep him close because she wanted to keep an eye on him and watch him. She ain't never wanted to see him go. And like he's saying, look, what am I doing? Am I going to grandma's? Am I doing this? And she was gonna send him to grandma. But now that wasn't gonna keep him safe now. Because somebody was gonna pop him no matter what. So this turns into the 50 Cent story right away.
Prefer the morning, but how about late in the day?
I'm sorry. Tomorrow at 3.
Everybody going to Houston. So far, my favorite character is the one that's dating the mom. The one that's dating Ra. The one that keeps giving all the information to he giving all that information to about the buildings and the real estate, and that's the best part of it. He giving y'all a history lesson. I think eventually a war is gonna happen between her and Ra because of the scenario. I mean, the guy Makai Curtis, he sound like 50 at times. He sound like Kanan. He look like 50. He fits. Well, right now the show is just forming. So in the first two episodes, it's like, okay, I'm not really feeling the jukebox stuff. That's why on demand, when you watch it, you can just fast forward through that. I don't like D Wiz, man. It sucks. D Wiz is only on there for two episodes. Yeah, 91, 92 was the hot top fade. After 92, high top fades was starting to go away. That was it. By 1991, that was like the end of the high top fade era. High top fades was fading away after 91. 1992, they were starting to go completely away. Kids started that trend? No way. People had high top fades way before he did. Did you forget Eric B. and Rakim and any rapper in the 80s and 90s had a high top fade before Kid and Play? Kid just took his all the way up. So by 1992, all high top fades was basically gone by 92. People were starting to go ball. It was the Onyx. Everybody wanted to be like Onyx and go to ball. Ball heads was a way to go. Yeah, having a low cut fade instead of a high top fade. Low cut fades was in with parts. That was it in the 92 era. But in this scene, where the Cruise came in at, it was a drought. Connects were being popped off. The new laws in New York with people and getting all that weight moved through there. It was hard to move it in New York. You need territory, you need men, you need crews. So they didn't have that structure. And I'm glad they kept that reality into this show. Just having it like, oh, they the Don, they just got all this work and ain't no problems. They could just do this and that. I'm glad they didn't. The writers, that's probably was 50, telling them the writers probably they don't know no better. The writers probably just wrote it in. Oh, they got to connect. They getting the weight. They getting this. Fifth probably told them, man, that ain't easy. It wasn't like that, man. It was you had work, but you couldn't really move it. I mean, who's you gonna have to move it in those areas? You need people. You need territory. You ain't got enough territory for everybody to be on one block. Everybody just can't be on the same block. They take each other out. Where you gonna? You gotta put these people somewhere and move them. They gotta be able to control that area. So the people over there, they gotta understand. Like, look, this is our area. Don't mess up here. Well, dudes, they have shifts, whether you believe it or not. But yeah, it was a structured plan over there. Like people had to have time shifts on when they could sell product. Like you have this is your area from this time to this time. This is such and such time. He take over from this time to this time. And if some people try to violate that and stay a little longer than what they supposed to, then you have fights within crews because of it. But the guy who territory that is, that's always belonged to one individual who's sending his soldiers out to, do what they do on those areas, it's his responsibility to put that in check. So everything, the blocks were being ran like a business or a company, like a Walmart or something, or Walgreens. This is your supervisor, your shift manager. This is your job. You got to do this part of the job from this point to this point. Then it's the second shift, third shift. You gotta understand. This is how they was working. No, I'm not. I'm not a dealer at all. I just know what was happening around me. See, when you grow up in the hood, you don't have to do everything in the hood. Not everybody grow up doing what you do. Before everybody was in a gang and doing all this stuff, they were kids going to school and was classmates of us. That's it. They were friends. We played football together. We played all these things. But when people grow up, they go down different roads. But I knew them before they were OG3 and and all these other names they create for themselves in the field. Yeah, he did play that role. But I'm looking forward to see what happens in episode 3. So let me get out of here, man. And hopefully y'all enjoy the rest of the series. We'll go over a couple. I'll probably let 2 episodes go by, then I'll come in and then talk about 2 episodes because it's better that way. You get more context when you got 2 episodes to link in together. Oh, First Time Felon's a great movie. If you've never seen it, definitely go check that out.